Are you someone who writes really good DBT models, but sometimes forgets to document everything? Maybe it just you do it at the end of the week, and the end of the week passes, and the documentation never pops up. That was also me. I'm a habitual documentation forgetter. Thankfully, we have Ultimate Code that can help write the documentation for you. So let's jump into Ultimate Code and see how it can help you out. We've already kind of initialized our environment here. So just running a /discover command. So that's a good place to start if you're installing Ultimate Code for the first time. And we're running this on Claude Sonnet 4.6. You can run it on any. It's open source. You can run it on any LLM, whether that's OpenAI, Claude, Google, so on and so forth. There, you can set it up inside of the UI. Anyways, let's jump in here. So I'm going to ask it, I'm going to switch over to our plan agent versus our build agent, just because we want to talk real quick. So can you take a look at my DBT documentation? How does it look? Okay, so this is going to jump into all of my documentation for my DBT project, and it's just going to let me know, is it good, is it bad, does it need more, does it need less, so on and so forth there. So I'm going to take a look at that. While it's doing that, I want to take a note and say up here on the top that another great feature of Ultimate Code is that we give you visibility into everything that you're using at all times. And that's what's so great about our tool being open source, and you can use whatever LLM that you want, and it connects to whatever databases that you want as well. But up here on the top, you can see that we give you context of how many tokens that you're using. So me running my discover command and getting everything ready to go this morning took around 40,000 tokens, which in Claude terms is 27 cents. And I got to be honest with you, whenever I started using AI stuff for the first time, I was like, 40,000 tokens seems like a lot, right? Like, I don't know, I think about Chuck E. Cheese, and I'm like, man, if I spent 40,000 tokens, my mom would have killed me. But in Claude world, 40,000 tokens isn't that big of a deal, just 27 cents. And what I hope to show you by the end of this video is that, we are going to use more than 27 cents in this video. I know, crazy. But we're going to use some amount of money that we'll talk about at the end. But what we really want you to see is that the value that you're generating with the money that it calculates up there is really, really worth it. And not only that, but you can also see that you can do a /trace, and that pulls up a web page for you that shows every tool call, LLM request, and decision in a live view, so that you can share that with support if you need to, or just share it with your team just to show like, hey, this is everything that's happening as we're running as well. And you can see below that we have MCPs and LSPs. We're not going to dive too much into those videos, but just letting you know that they're there. So it's still taking a look at our documentation. We'll let it finish up, and we'll dive back in when it's ready to take a look at. All right, so you can see it did 31 tool calls and took 2 minutes and 6 seconds to finish this up. And let's jump into what it tells us. So this is good news and bad news. The project has a solid foundation in some areas, but significant gaps across most layers. Here's an honest assessment. So it gives us an overall score of 50%. It's pretty good. No, I'm just kidding. It's not great. And then a 20% column coverage. So don't have a lot of documentation written out, which, obviously this is a demo, but that's pretty close to what my repositories look like. So here's what's done well. So it has fact reviews and intermediate host performance, has excellent model level descriptions. Mart listing performance has classification columns with clear descriptions. Mart full moon reviews has model description correctly explains the date add join logic quirk. So on and so forth there. Let's jump down to the critical gaps, because that's really what's most important in this video. So in our critical gaps, we see that dim listing with hopes has no model description and 0 columns described, which this feeds into the executive dashboard, which is the worst gap in the project. Sources.yaml has 0 descriptions, 0 description text anywhere, so source table column levels only exist for test. The source layer has no schema at all, legacy has no schema at all, and then 7 or 9 metric columns in intermediate host performance are missing. They exist in the SQL output but have 0 YAML entries. Okay, a lot of stuff there. We also have structural issues and minor quality issues that we'll fix here in just a second. Here's a summary by layer. So each layer with model descriptions, column coverage, or schema file. We got a lot to fix here, right? We got a lot to fix here. So let's let Ultimate Code jump into this and start fixing it. So it says, proposed plan, would you like me to fill in the documentation gaps? I can write description for all documented models and columns, or add docs blocks, create missing schema files, fix the 2 typos, or add source level descriptions. So I'm going to switch this over to Builder. I'm going to say write descriptions for all undocumented models and columns, and send it off and let it go. And so this is actually going to go through here and actually build out the things that we're missing, which is really exciting. And, as I know, I'm just like, I am telling you, I am biased. I work here. However, the descriptions that it writes out are really, really good. Like much better than what I would have what I would have wrote down. So not only does Ultimate Code help you out if sometimes there's employees at your company that forget to write documentation or just don't do it. It gives you some documentation, but also if you have someone like me that like sometimes will do it, but it's like, hey, like host ID will be like, oh, that's the ID of the host. That technically is documentation. They technically did the job, but it could be better. And so you're going to see the documentation that Ultimate Code's right. Not only does it give you documentation, but it is better. And so let's like walk through what's going on here. So you can see it gives us a to-do list. So read all model SQL files to understand transformations before writing docs. We have fixed typos and add missing column docs, add source level descriptions, create models. So fill missing columns there, create that for a legacy layer. Expand docs.markdown with new doc blocks, and validate all YAML compiles clean with Ultimate DBT. Okay, a lot of stuff going on here. So we're going to let Ultimate Code cook a little bit. As you can see, it is already starting to cook here. So we have our first piece of this done. So this is editing model schema.yaml. And you can see that it's taking, so my dimensions listing cleanse table description was cleanse table, which contains Airbnb listings. And it changed it to cleanse and standardized Airbnb listing dimensions sourced from the raw listings table via source listings. Key transforms are the price column is cast from a raw string to a numeric value, and minimum nights values of 0 are corrected to 1. One row per listing ID used as the primary listing reference throughout the pipeline. And you can see that, like listing ID is primary key for the listing, which is what I would have wrote. And then it says source from the raw ID column. So a lot of good stuff here. We're going to let Ultimate Code kind of go through this full to-do list, and then we'll jump back in and take a look at see what it did. All right, so it is finished running now. So we're going to kind of run through all the things that it created here, just so you don't have to trust me that it created it. It actually did, just with a little bit of time travel here. So starting off with this model source schema.yaml, you can see like we have our model here, source listings, and this description that's like, hey, it's a ephemeral staging model that selects and renames columns from the raw Airbnb listing source table. No business logic is applied here. This model exists solely to give raw columns consistent pipeline-friendly names before they are consumed by this other model. So, great description. I would probably never write that myself. And you can see we have a similar one down here for source host and source reviews. So let's jump down into this next one, which is edit models intermediate schema.yaml. So you can see it's giving us a better description for this intermediate host performance table that we had here. And you can see it says intermediate model aggregating per host listing metrics. Grain is one row per host ID. Joins dim host cleansed with dim listings cleansed to compute price statistics, room type distribution, and host classification fields. Materializes a table, and it feeds marked listing performance. So it tells us what the table is, where it came from, and then where it's going, which is really cool. So obviously we have lineage built into this as well, but it works in the description for you too. So some other things that I really like down here. Obviously these descriptions these are all fresh. You can see that these didn't exist beforehand. And let's see, like even for like this one that we have these like special values, these accepted values, it tells us like, hey, inactive is 0, single is 1, small 2 to 5, medium 6 to 15, and large 16 plus. That was in those case statements in the SQL, and it's generating that for a description for us, which is really cool. And continuing down the sheet here, doing other things. So we also get the model's MART schema. Again, we're getting a better model description here, and then all of these columns are getting better descriptions than they ever had before. Which is really great. Same thing for the accepted values, so on and so forth here. All good stuff. We also wrote models legacy schema.yaml, which again, it picked this up on its own. So this legacy folder was like they were bad models that we used in a teaching environment, just to start from a bad spot so we could fix them, right? And so it even picked that up that in the description was like, hey, this is legacy. Do not use in new work. This is the original unrefactored version of this table, retained for teaching purposes in the DBT bootcamp course. So it knew that, picked it up, and was like, hey, do not use this. But of course, it still wrote descriptions for us here and everything, which is really cool. Same thing for the next or the next model, excuse me. So we'll scroll through that. So now it expands docs.markdown with the new docs blocks. So giving us some better things here in the doc blocks. And then I guess the best part is that it writes good documentation. The second best part is that then it tests it to make sure that it runs. And so you can see that it's parsing the DBT project to validate all the YAML in Jinja. So you can see it's doing that clean parse, 0 errors. Let me do a final self-review. So then it generates a doc site here. So it runs like DBT docs generate and runs to that. So catalog generated successfully. And then it's like, hey, I'm actually going to go look and see if everything's in there. And it says all 12 models, both legacy models, and all 3 sources are in the catalog. Every doc block resolved correctly. So then it says all done, parse is clean, the docs is generated successful, catalog is fully populated. So we're good to go here. So then it gives us a nice little rundown of what happened here. So again, we really want Altimate Code to be a tool that obviously helps you do your data engineering work a lot easier and a lot quicker and more efficiently. But we also want to make sure you get visibility into everything, so that not only do we have all that stuff in there that you could read through all the small changes, but we also then give it to you in a way that you actually want to look at here. So we have a table of like, hey, this model schema, we had full rewrites for all 4 models, fixed 2 typos, added missing descriptions for these things, so on and so forth. For all of these things down here, for this model's intermediate schema, we added the non-missing metric columns, all 4 room type counts, and with full descriptions there. So we give you all the visibility there, and then kind of going full circle in this video. At the very top right-hand corner, you can see that we kind of had like 25 cents at the beginning. So this basically took $1 for us to run using Altimate Code with Claude Sonnet 4.6 to generate all of these descriptions, write all of them for models and for our and for each column, which are much better descriptions than I ever had before, and it even improved some of those ones I had before, right? And actually went through and generated and made sure that everything is clean and running successfully. And all of that was done for you in about, we did a little time travel in this video, but it took around 17 minutes of real time and $1. I would say that's pretty efficient. If I would pay $1 for that every single day of the week, then I have to write documentation. So yeah, in this video, we went over how you can use Altimate Code to dig into your DBT project and write documentation for you and improve the documentation that you had before. We'll see you next time.